Hello everyone. This story is about, what if God-like Naruto was able to feel other people's emotions and fall in love with Mei and Anko? Please like, share and subscribe for more. Also check the other fics I've uploaded. Now let's start. Hope. Only 4 letters, yet such a big word. To some, it's only just that, a word. But to others, to the few who have nothing else, hope is so much more. I have been called a bringer of hope since my time in Mizuno Kuni, and if I were honest, I quite like the name. It was given to me by someone I care a great deal for. A person who brings hope, it does sound rather fancy. Through my many travels around the elemental nations, I have searched for another. I have looked for years for someone else who brought hope to the hopeless. I have finally found that person. He may not be a monster like me, but that's okay. I do monster perfectly fine by myself. And now. +1. Naruto was staring at the third member of Team 7 with something akin to a predatory gaze. The kid was very strange, and his lack of emotions was getting to the blonde. It amused him for a moment, and then it pissed him off. Danzo really underestimated them, and the Uzumaki was finding it irritating. Naruto knew that Sai, if that was his real name, was a member of roed, and the only reason he hadn't ripped the spy's throat out was because there was a little. He couldn't explain it. But there was something deep down inside the genin, something slumbering. Something that felt like emotion, something that felt like anger. Naruto smiled, he could work with anger. The boy was asleep, and the Kamikage wanted to see the real Sai when he was awake. Once Naruto had seen the real him, he would ask his leader to pass judgment on him. If he wished for the boy's death, then he would be given his head. If he was told to spare him, then he wouldn't touch the genin, as was what the commander of God's army was expected to do. During his thoughts, Kakashi came up to stand next to him as they watched the genin practice the tree-walking exercise. Oddly enough, it was Sakura who completed the task first. The pink-haired girl had exceptional chakra control, and was able to complete the task right away. Sai had pretended to struggle for a little while, which was just insulting to the blonde. He knew that if he was a root member, then he would most definitely know how to cling to surfaces using his chakra. His act didn't fool him, or Kakashi. So you noticed, too? Kakashi asked, already knowing the answer. If he could tell on the first day, then he didn't doubt that his kohai knew the very second he stepped through the door of Tezuna's home. Yeah, Naruto said softly, watching Sasuke have trouble with the exercise. He could tell that the boy was annoyed that he looked incompetent in front of such a powerful figure like the bringer of hope. Which made it all the more difficult for him since his concentration was split. And your decision? Kakashi asked. I want to wait and see something for myself, he admitted, never taking his eyes off Sasuke. After that, I'll ask Hokage Gigi what should be done. Kakashi nodded. He wasn't sure what was worth discovering about the boy, him having no emotions or will of his own at all, but if that's what his brother wanted, then he would give it to him. A few minutes later, and Kakashi decided to go back to the house with Sakura and Sai since they had the tree-walking exercise down already. Sakura wanted to stay, but Kakashi made it clear that she didn't have a choice. His explanation was that they needed to take Tezuna to the bridge and watch over him, but there was another reason why he wanted them both to leave. This was the perfect time for Naruto to talk to Sasuke, and Sai couldn't really report anything to Danzo except that they were alone together for a while. Which was bound to happen eventually since he was attached to Team 7 now. Naruto smiled and nodded to his Aniki for giving him his first time alone with the Uchiha. The blonde approached the raven-haired boy who was panting a little and just staring up at the large tree in front of him, trying to figure out the secret of sticking to it. Can I give you a few pointers? Naruto asked. Sasuke turned his head to the blonde and huffed. I don't need your help. He stood. I'm an Uchiha, I can do this on my own. He took the kunai in his hand that he used as a marker and ran at the tree. It was painfully obvious that he was using the wrong amount of chakra. He was probably doing so because he had no desire to launch himself off the tree and land on his head like he did the first time he used too much. The last Uchiha didn't even get halfway up the tree before he slashed at it and made his way down rather skillfully. I wasn't implying that you couldn't. Naruto smirked. I just thought you were mature enough to take the advice of a fellow Konohanin. I guess I was wrong. He began to leave, but was stopped by the genin. Wait, Sasuke sighed. He shook his head. I'm sorry. I'm just frustrated because both of my teammates got this within 20 minutes and I can't even stick to the tree for a few seconds. Naruto smiled. It was taking a lot for the Uchiha to admit this. And it showed him that the boy wasn't a complete stuck-up like so many people said he was. Can I still? He looked to his left, not wanting to make eye contact with the blonde. Get those pointers? He finished rather quietly, like what he was asking for was something to be ashamed of. Of course, Naruto said cheerily, a huge grin on his face. It's not as difficult as it seems, he continued as he got closer to the genin. I can show you a little trick senpai taught me. Now standing in front of the Uchiha, Naruto couldn't help but smile. He looked like Itachi, and it reminded him of his first human friend. He wondered what Itachi was doing right now. He really hoped that he was okay, because he couldn't wait to see him again. He hoped that when they next met, Sasuke could be there with him, on their side, instead of in the smothering darkness of hatred and revenge. If he wanted that to happen, then there was much work to be done. Gato was very, very nervous. The short, stout man had thought he was untouchable with his growing monopoly of the shipping industry. His large arrogance was what led him to believe that, since he was such a rich man, said to be the richest in the world, then not even the prestigious Konoha no Sato would dare touch him. The message the bringer of fucking hope sent him yesterday was proof enough that no one was out of their reach. It didn't matter how big the target, if God wanted someone's soul, he'd have it, and Gato was sweating profusely because he now knew it. He had no doubt in his mind that God's shadow would, and very much could, kill him. For God's sake, the boy was a Kage slayer, responsible for the death of the fourth Mizukage. One was enough to earn the title Kage slayer, since even one of them would have been extremely difficult to kill. So now here Gato was, constantly jumping whenever there was a sudden noise around him. Even though it was never the Kamikage, Gato still jumped and searched for what made the noise. He was paranoid, extremely so, and terrified out of his mind. What did he have to go and piss off a god for? He was an idiot for rerouting the raw materials shipment for Konoha to himself in Nami. He just wanted his men to be able to make high-quality weapons, is all. Most of his thugs were walking around with dull knives and cracked swords, they really needed better materials. That's when his arrogance got the best of him. He had stolen from heaven, and now an angel of death was going to reap his soul. He was a fool to openly flaunt his trespasses on Konoha, and he understood now why they were the greatest village in the elemental nations. There was only a sliver of hope left for the shipping tycoon. After he had spoken to Zabuza, and that brat Haku who almost broke his arm, he had explained their predicament and was pleased to hear the man's plan. Hopefully, 2 previous 7 swordsmen and this mystery partner would be enough for Gato to keep his life. Hopefully. After only an hour of practice, Sasuke was able to perfect the tree walking exercise. It was strange for the Uchiha to take advice from, well, anyone, but especially from someone as young as Naruto. He realized that his pride was only hindering him, but he just couldn't help himself. So when he was still in the forest with the blonde, he didn't really understand why he was so eager to cooperate and listen to him. Yes, he was known worldwide as one of the most powerful shinobi alive at the moment, but Sasuke didn't think that his willingness to learn from the bringer of hope was because of his reputation. After an hour of the tree walking exercise, Naruto had offered to teach the raven-haired boy how to walk on water. Apparently, it not only applied in battle, but also improved one's chakra control. Sasuke already had decent control, but he shared Naruto's enthusiasm in improving himself. With the blonde there it didn't take long for him to complete it. Only a few hours and Sasuke had learned more from the new Jonin than he had from his sensei in an entire month. If he wasn't so prideful, he'd ask if they could train all the time together. It's getting late, Naruto said, standing from his prone position. The Konoha decided to take a break, and it had already gotten dark. We should get back before we miss dinner. There was a sad look in his eyes. I don't want to give Tsunami-san any more reason to dislike me. Sasuke didn't know what he did to upset the woman, but he definitely knew that she looked at him differently after they came back from shopping the day prior. The Uchiha wasn't very good with sympathy, so he just replied with, HN. You know, Naruto started as the two began to walk back to Tazuna's home. If you'd like, we can train together even after I'm attached to another team. He couldn't see it, but he could feel the Uchiha's eyes widen. Sasuke quickly composed himself. Sure, he said like it wasn't a big deal. Internally, he was shocked. It was like the blonde knew what he wanted. Cool, Naruto said nonchalantly. If the genin wanted to act like it was no big deal, then so would he. He knew how the Uchiha thought, and the fact that he was able to get this much out of him was a miracle. The boy was prideful, and he wanted nothing more than to acquire power so that he could have his revenge. It angered Naruto, more than anything, that the genin's anger was misdirected. He was upset with the wrong person. His anger, his hate, it was all towards Itachi. Naruto couldn't wait until he was ready to learn the truth. When that time came, Danzo's days would be limited. The rest of the small walk back to the house was done in a peaceful silence. It didn't take long for the two to walk through the door of Tezuna's home, and when they did, they were greeted by an excited Sakura. "You're back," she squealed happily. "Dinner's almost ready." Naruto was amused with the girl's conviction. She actually loved Sasuke. Unlike Ino, Sakura deep down cared for the boy on a more emotional level. Whereas Ino liked him for his coolness, Sakura just wanted the Uchiha to accept her, his popularity only being a small reason why she was attracted to him. Yes, she was definitely a fangirl, but Naruto could look underneath the underneath, and below all of that schoolgirl nonsense, there was someone who actually cared for Sasuke. Great, Naruto decided to answer since Sasuke just walked past the pink-haired girl and took a seat. He was going to change that attitude of his one way or another. Ignoring a teammate, no matter how obsessive he or she may be, was not the Konoha way. Sakura's intentions were good, and Sasuke needed to look past the academy girl and try better to accept the budding kunoichi. Of course, he'd definitely need to have a serious chat with the girl as well, because her fangirl behavior was just pushing her crush away. She didn't understand that Sasuke was all about power, so if she ever wanted the boy of her dreams to give her the recognition she craved, she needed to grow stronger as both a kunoichi and a woman. "How was the training, Naruto-san? Did Sasuke-kun complete the exercise?" Sakura asked excitedly. "Yup. Sasuke-san was able to complete the tree walking exercise," he gave a proud smile, "and then I taught him how to do the same thing. But on water." The blonde found the pink-haired girl's reaction funny. First, she was happy. Then, when he smiled at her, her cheeks turned a few shades redder. Naruto kind of had that effect on people. After he mentioned that he taught the Uchiha how to walk on water, she was shocked. "Why, you taught him how to walk on water?" she asked disbelievingly. Naruto smirked, nodding his head. "Yeah. It's a lot like clinging to trees, just a little more useful." She was still in shock. Apparently the girl had never seen or heard of someone walking on water before. "It's a common practice, Sakura-san. All shinobi learn it during their genin days." He gave Sai a look that said, "I know what you are, and Sai should be learning it pretty soon. I just taught it to Sasuke because we had nothing better to do." Sakura just nodded her head, still a little in wonder that shinobi walking on water was a normal thing. Naruto guessed that the young kunoichi wasn't going to reply, so he took a seat next to Kakashi, who had just entered the room, his usual smut in hand. "Ah, you're back. How did the training session go?" the lazy pervert asked, his eyes never leaving his book. Naruto smiled. Genin Uchiha Sasuke can now climb trees without the use of his hands and walk on water. He reported in a mock professional manner. Kakashi's one visible eye finally graced Naruto with its gaze. "You taught him the water walking exercise as well?" The blonde nodded. "I appreciate the assistance, Kohai. You should help me train my cute little genin more often." Naruto smirked. His senpai was giving him even more opportunities to train Sasuke. "You're very welcome, senpai. I would be honored to assist you with your genin in any way possible," he replied. A few minutes of idle chit-chat later and dinner was ready. It smelled really good, and Naruto was starving. Tsunami's cooking was amazing, almost as good as Hayate's. The Uzumaki had gotten a lot closer to the Tokubetsu Jonin in the month he had lived with him, and he began to think that his cooking was too good for him to ever move out. And when they all ate together, he felt like he actually belonged somewhere. It was hard, protecting something so precious to you when the very thing you care for the most despised your very existence. Naruto loved Konoha, with every fiber in his body, but it still hurt, even to this day, when he felt the minds and hearts of the villagers, and all that was there was hate and loathing for him. Tsunami had just sat down, after serving everyone their plates, when Naruto felt depression and anger behind him. When he turned to see Inari, he sighed. "You should just give up," the boy whispered. It wasn't soft enough to be unheard, but it wasn't loud enough to make a big impression. Still, Sasuke replied. "What was that?" he asked offhandedly. "I said you should all just give up." There's no way you can stop Gato. He'll just kill you all, the boy snarled louder than before. He then turned to Naruto. You, he cried, pointing at the blonde. You're the famous bringer of hope, and even you haven't done anything to stop him. Your name's a lie. You can't bring hope here, because hope doesn't exist anymore. He lowered his head. Gato took that away, too. Inari. Tsunami shouted. Don't speak like that. She didn't want her son to have such a dark view on the world, but Naruto could tell that she was worried that he might hurt her son. He didn't show it, but that actually hurt him more than he would like to admit. You speak as if you've seen the ugly truths of the world. Naruto began as he stood. You speak as if you're not a young, naive, ignorant child. He was now standing in front of the boy. You know nothing of how I earned my titles. I've laughed in the face of a Kage, and then I sent him to hell. He put his hand on Inari's head, and decided to ignore Tsunami's fearful emotions. I've freed a country 5 times bigger than Nami no Kuni. Naruto's eyes changed from blue to gold. I am the right hand of God, Inari. He then took in a deep breath. Hope is never out of my reach. Now glimpse, boy, he whispered. I'll let you have a glance of heaven. The whole room lit up in a bright gold light, everyone inside shielding their eyes formed the majestic shine. By this point Tsunami was in tears with how worried she was for her baby. When the light faded, Tsunami, Tazuna, Sasuke, and Sakura gasped at what they saw. On his knees, with tears running down his face, Inari stared at Naruto with bright, molten gold eyes. Not just his pupils, they were nowhere in sight, but his entire sockets were alight with the mighty color. Inari? Tsunami shouted, rushing over to her child. She took him by the shoulders and panicked when he didn't see her and just kept staring at the blonde shinobi. What did you do to my son? She asked in a shaky voice. Naruto could feel the other thing the black-haired woman wanted to scream. Get away from us. Naruto's look made Kakashi's heart ache. I gave it back to him, was all Naruto said before he walked out of the house, never even touching his plate. Gave what back to him? She cried back, but it was too late, Naruto was already gone. When she looked back down at her son, he was looking back at her with something she hadn't seen on his face since her husband was taken from them, a smile. Kakashi sighed as he stood. He walked towards the stairs. Hope, the copy-nin answered for his kohai. Naruto gave Inari back his hope by letting him see the world through his eyes. With that said, Kakashi climbed the stairs, ready to sleep through the rest of the night. He knew his brother all too well, he would want to be alone for tonight. The entire time, Sai ate his meal with a fake smile on his face. He didn't open his eyes, but Naruto knew that someone was approaching him. This person was trying to decide something. This person was trying to decide whether or not to assassinate him. It was rather amusing if you were honest. This person thought they could actually take his life if they wanted to. It was a funny joke. The fact that the person was considering letting him live was the only reason he hadn't slit their throat. It was interesting, and Naruto wanted to see where this would go if he let the person decide for themselves. A few moments later, and he could hear a female-like voice, which was strange since he could tell that the person was very much a male, and that he was the only person around. You shouldn't sleep out here, Shinobi-san. He could feel a hand tap his shoulder. You'll catch a cold. Naruto slowly opened his eyes. Apparently he decided to spare him. I think I'll be okay. Haku, the feminine-looking boy, answered the unspoken question. Haku. Naruto looked around before he sighed. I'm Naruto. So, what are you doing out here, Haku-san? He asked, getting to his feet. He didn't want to go back to Tazuna's house. He was going to respect Tsunami's wishes, even if she never expressed them. Her mind was clear, she didn't want him around her son anymore, and Naruto really didn't want to feel the way he felt last night again. He usually loved being a monster, embraced it even, but when the people he promised to protect looked at him like one, well, even a monster's heart could ache. Someone very dear to me is injured. Haku pointed to the herbs across the small clearing they were in. I'm looking for medicinal herbs so I can speed up his recovery. Haku gave the blonde a polite, kind smile. Naruto smirked. Ah yes, I heard. Kakashi really got Zabuza good the other day, huh? Haku's shocked face was humorous. The fake Kirin stood and took out a Senbon, getting in a defensive stance. I will return to Zabuza-sama, even if I have to kill you, he stated. Naruto just chuckled. If I wanted you dead, Haku-san, you would already be dead. The blonde stretched. Now, which herbs were you looking for? He asked, taking his time to walk over to where Haku had pointed. Why you? Haku was very, very confused. You want to help heal an enemy shinobi? This had to be some kind of joke, or a way to get his guard down. Right? Yeah. Naruto nodded. You see, I kind of need your assistance with something, so I thought, while you do what I need I could have some fun as well. His genuine smile confused the last Yuki even more. Fun? He asked, now very interested in what the boy had to say. Yes, fun, he replied, bending down to pick the herbs he knew to be medicinal. You see, I've been asleep for quite a while now, and I'm terribly curious about it. Curious about what? Haku asked. This Konoha made no sense at all. Firstly, he had been fast asleep, ignorant to the possibilities of an enemy nin attack in a nation without shinobi. Secondly, he somehow knew that he was working with a well-known, A-ranked missing nin and didn't try to attack. Thirdly, he didn't try to stop him from collecting herbs, but even offered to help. And lastly, he wanted to have fun? What the hell was wrong with this kid? I want to know which is superior. Naruto stood, handing the boy the herbs he picked out, almost losing his composure when the fake hunter nin almost flinched. As he walked off further into the forest, he whispered his last words, but Haku heard them clearly, like nature itself went silent so his words could travel to his ears. A demon. Or a monster. After an unfruitful training session, Naruto decided to confront the little birdie following him. He gave the boy props for his skills in stealth, for a genin at least. You can come out now, Sasuke. He said, not even looking towards the tree the Uchiha was in. The blonde was sitting on the shoreline, watching the waves, which reminded him of a certain auburn-haired woman. The forest behind him, more specifically the rather large tree, was where the Konoha genin stood, trying his best to be inconspicuous. How long did you know? Sasuke asked, trying to act like he wasn't bothered at being discovered so quickly. Naruto smirked, not that the genin could see it. Since you stepped out of Tazuna's home. He could feel the boy's shock. I'm a censor, Sasuke, and a good one at that. He gave a small smile. What's on your mind? A pointless question, since Naruto already knew what he wanted to talk about. Last night, the raven-haired boy paused, not sure if he should ask. What? What did you do? When he saw Inari's eyes he didn't know what to think. Then, when Kakashi said that he somehow gave hope back to him by letting him see through his eyes, Sasuke was interested in what he meant. Inari's eyes were back to normal now, but around the pupil, there was a faint gold trace. My sensor ability comes from another technique I was born with. He turned to the Uchiha. It's called empathy, and with it I can understand others on a deeper, more personal level. The special thing about my gifts is that there is more than one way to use them. If I can make physical contact, I can push my empathy onto another, and let them see what I see when I look at the world. So, Sasuke began, since Inari saw through your eyes, he somehow obtained hope? I don't understand. How can someone see hope? Isn't it just a four-letter word, an emotion? Naruto shook his head. I could sit here and explain it to you all day, but I don't think you would understand. He felt the Uchiha's indignant mind. Relax, Sasuke, I know you're an intelligent shinobi, but even Kage-level ninja can't properly contemplate what I'm capable of. He smirked. But if you'd like, he held out his hand, you can try to, with time. Sasuke took a moment to think the offer over. Ever since what he did, all the last loyal Uchiha wanted was to gain the power to avenge his clan, to be powerful enough to end his brother's life. He didn't have time for friends. He didn't have time to train with others, because to Sasuke, everyone was below him. But now, standing in front of him, someone known to be the greatest shinobi in Hai no Kuni wanted to help. He only had one question. Why? He knew what a lot of people thought about him. He was the last Uchiha, not Uchiha Sasuke. He loved his clan, he wanted the world to know their greatness, but he wanted to be seen as an individual sometimes. It's simple, really. Naruto began. When I was in the ANBU, I knew your brother. He felt Sasuke freeze. He was my first real friend in the village. His small smile morphed into something more sinister. You weren't the only one who lost a brother, a family that night. He steeled his features. With your help, Sasuke, I want to annihilate the person responsible, the person who took something very dear to us both. Naruto decided to ease the boy's mind. You're not just another Uchiha, there's greatness in your future. The drawback, though, is that there are two very different paths that lie before you. Without my assistance, it is very possible that you will fall into the dark abyss of hatred, forever falling in a never-ending pit of suffering. But with my help, with me there to guide you, to teach you, I guarantee you will be remembered long after your death. The name Uchiha Sasuke will be etched into history forever, not as a brave and courageous hero, but as one of the greatest monsters to have ever served heaven. His hand was still offered to the genin. So, what's it going to be? Will you let your heart ache and struggle to gain the power you seek? Or will you join me in my crusade as one of God's monsters, his demon slayer, and his right hand? It was strange. Sasuke was never one to follow. He was never one to listen to orders, to serve. But at that moment, after hearing the most sincere thing anyone had ever told him, he felt like he could follow. He felt like he could, like he would, do as this blonde shinobi said. He shook the Uzumaki's hand. He would become a monster. And Naruto could feel his conviction. He was one step closer to being ready, and Danzo was one step closer to hell. He was almost insulted when he felt the fear and panic of Tsunami. Apparently, Gato wanted hostages, and nothing screamed hostage like a helpless woman or a child. It disgusted Naruto that someone would take advantage of the innocent like this. This was why he loved taking the life of scum, they tainted the world, and needed to be cleansed. He was insulted because all the cowardly man sent was two very weak thugs, something a genin could handle easily. The fool still underestimated Konoha. That alone was enough for the bringer of hope to want his head. For a civilian woman, however, they were probably intimidating and scary. Tsunami couldn't fight back for fear of her son getting involved. That woman was something else, really. She thought of her son first, before all else, even in the face of imminent death. She was a good person, and a great mother. For a fraction of a second, Naruto was jealous of Inari. Then, after he remembered who his mother was and what she had done for him, he decided that he was perfectly fine with his own mother, even if she was dead. Uzumaki Kushina was the greatest mother a boy could have. She was beautiful, smart, talented, and willing to die for her family. Naruto wouldn't trade her for the world. Just now exiting the house, Gato's men were dragging a crying Tsunami off. The reason he wasn't down there this moment was simple, he wanted to see if her son would do anything. He was radiating bravery and courage, the likes of which only someone who was willing to die could. At that moment, the ignorant child became a man, a warrior in the eyes of the Kamikage. Tsunami, Tazuna, all of Wave had just earned his respect, they had just earned their freedom, and all because of the courage of one boy. As he suspected, Inari ran out of the house, his hands balled into fists, a scared but brave expression etched into his face. He was going to save his mother or die trying, and that's all Naruto needed to see. He had no doubt that the boy would surely die, but it was the fact that he would do just that for the safety of his loved ones. Inari was, now, the kind of person the blonde respected above all others. He was someone who would stand against impossible odds for the sake of others. Someone who wasn't arrogant enough to think they could win, but brave enough not to care about things like surviving. Someone who would dance with death and smile, knowing that all that could be done was someone like him. As Inari reached the two thugs, who had taken their weapons out to cut down the child, the men fell, their lifeless corpses now adorning two very shinobi-like kunai that weren't there a second ago. Inari was shocked all but 2 seconds before the same smile he had the other night crept back onto his face. He didn't do or say anything for a few moments, but after he took in a deep breath, he shouted to the heavens. "Thank you, Naruto nii." After Tsunami recovered from the shock of a failed abduction attempt, she couldn't help but cry again. This time, however, it was not tears of fear or sorrow, these were tears of joy. Her baby, her beloved son hadn't smiled like that since Kaiza was murdered. She smiled sadly and whispered, "Thank you, Naruto-san." Her smile became a bright one. "I'm not afraid anymore." She sighed and shook her head. "I don't know if you can hear me, but if you can. Thank you. Thank you so very, very much." The Uzumaki could hear her. He could feel her. He was accepted, and he once again felt invincible. It was time to have some fun now. On the way to the bridge, Naruto felt him. He hadn't felt him in years, but he could never forget that chakra signature. "Itachi," he whispered under his breath. What was he doing here? And who was he traveling with? His companion's chakra felt fishy, for lack of a better term. And it was larger than the reserves of most Kage. Whoever he was, this man was dangerous, and he was traveling with Itachi, another extremely dangerous shinobi. That meant he was a member of the organization Itachi joined that Jiraiya was telling him about, the one he wasn't allowed to confront yet for some reason. Itachi may still be a loyal Konohanin and like a brother to Naruto, but he needed to keep his cover. He wouldn't like it, but right now, Itachi was the enemy, along with his companion. And they were headed towards Kakashi-senpai and Sasuke. There was no doubt in his mind that Itachi would kill Kakashi if it was necessary to keep his cover intact. First friend or not, Kakashi would not be taken from him too, he wouldn't allow it. He needed to have a chat with, what was it? The Akatsuki? Yeah, it was time to send the Akatsuki a message. It took him a few minutes to cut the two ninja off, and Naruto now knew who the fishy, literally, man was. So, the Uzumaki's voice called out to the two black-cloaked men, Gato hired 2 S-rank missing nin to, what? Kill me? He asked in an amused voice. Tisk, tisk. He shook his pointer finger along with his head. The two of you are way out of your league here. The aforementioned missing nin turned to the blonde. Now, I'm kind of busy, so if you apologize for wasting my time, I'll let you live. For now. He crossed his arms to wait for their response. Kisame, Itachi started with his calm and collected facade, your contact wanted us to confront Konoha's Kamikage? The shark-faced man turned to his partner. He never gave me a name. All he said was that he needed our organization to eliminate someone for him. He promised a hefty price as well. Itachi's eyes never left Naruto's. He had his Sharingan active, like usual, and was ready to activate the Mangekyo if needed. They weren't enemies, not really, but Naruto would not let them pass without something close to an all-out war between them. The blonde was never one to just let possible threats walk by, and Itachi was sure that Naruto knew of his cover, so he wouldn't want that blown either. Itachi deduced all of this in a second, just by looking into his friend's eyes. Nonetheless, the Uchiha began, we can no longer help your contact for more than one reason. When Kisame frowned and turned his gaze to the blonde, Itachi went through ANBU code faster than most could see. What of Sasuke? And I need Kisame alive, or our leader might retaliate. Naruto read it loud and clear. And what are those reasons, Itachi-san? Kisame asked. The one thing he liked about being teamed with the Uchiha was that he was quiet, polite, and skilled, more so than himself. He was the perfect partner, so he showed the youngest member of their team the respect he deserved. Leader Sama has stated that the Jinchuriki are off limits. Have you already forgotten? He pointed at Naruto. And more importantly, a fight with this guy would result in our deaths. We are not ready to fight an opponent of his caliber yet. Naruto chuckled. He wasn't bullshitting either, Itachi was telling the gods honest truth. He doesn't look like much to me. Kisame said with a smirk. And Samahata is begging to feast on his chakra. Ah, yes. Naruto suddenly shouted, his right hand meeting his left palm. Hoshigaki Kisame, former member of the 7 Swordsmen of Kirigakure. He chuckled darkly. You're called the tailless-tailed beast. Such an absurd title, don't you think? The Kiri missing nin's annoyed mind made Naruto want to chuckle again. No, I don't think it's absurd. He grabbed the hilt of the shark skin. So, boy, would you like to see why I was given that title? Kisame asked cockily. Unless you're scared, I mean, there are 2 of us, and well, you're all alone. Here we go. Itachi thought. He knew that was not something that should have been said. Before Naruto could speak, Kisame flared his chakra, the enormity of it being felt by everything nearby. It was huge, and very powerful, there was no doubt about it. It was a presence worth noting. The pressure of his chakra was a visible thing, pushing down on the environment in a display of power that would surely be terrifying. For a mortal. I'm never alone. Naruto whispered. With his Sharingan, Itachi was able to catch a pair of eyes morph from blue to gold, and circular pupils became slitted ones. He was able to catch something he hadn't seen in 5 years. Naruto's monster smirk. His senpai was awake. God help them all. Zabuza was in a deathmatch with Hatake Kakashi when he felt the huge chakra signature of arguably the most powerful man who ever joined the 7 Swordsmen of the Mist. It caused everyone on the bridge to pause for a second, the powerful wave of chakra washing over them, demanding recognition. He smirked, with Kisame and his partner here, he could fight Kakashi one-on-one without being interrupted. Everything was going as planned. Haku was fighting the two male genin, and the little female one was defending his target. Once he was done with the copy nin, he could kill the pink-haired weakling and then the bridge builder. Gata would pay them and then they could leave this poor, dirty country. Everything was going his way, until something not human responded to Kisame's powerful chakra. It was like Kisame's might was an infant, the cries of a newborn. What responded could only be described as godlike. It stopped the hearts of everyone on the bridge. It brought them all to their knees, taking their breath away. It actually pushed down on them, commanding them to submit to its will. Like it was omnipresent, like the entire world could feel it. It was the most terrifying thing any of them had ever felt. The dome of ice Haku had trapped Sasuke and Sai in shattered from the pressure, the density of whatever it was. Tazuna and Sakura were having an incredibly difficult time staying conscious, the enormity of whatever was bearing down on them almost too much for them to handle. Sasuke was so lost in it that he didn't notice his vision enhance, or how his eyes changed from onyx to crimson. Sai had thought his emotions were erased, that he couldn't feel anything anymore. Oh, how very wrong he was. Right now, with it pushing down on him, he felt fear. He was afraid. Had God decided to walk among them? Because this absolutely could not originate from a human being. This was out of the realm of mortals. This power, this otherworldly chakra was something so far from human that no one could comprehend it. It was so strong, so scary, but at the same time, it was beautiful. It was so warm, so bright, like the sun. It was almost too hard to explain. Or, maybe it wasn't. Maybe, it could be explained in one word. Impossible. This feeling lasted for no longer than 5 seconds, but it felt like a lifetime. When it stopped, everyone took in a much-needed breath, even the Jonin. They were all out of breath, and the young shinobi were shaking. Hell, Zabuza had to consciously keep himself from shaking. Kakashi wasn't shaking because he knew exactly where that chakra had originated from. What the hell was that? Zabuza asked no one in particular. Kakashi let out a long breath. That, Zabuza, was the end of our fight. Zabuza narrowed his eyes. I'm no longer your opponent. The moment he finished his sentence, Naruto, acting like nothing was wrong in the world, flickered into existence next to his brother figure. Yo. The blonde gave Zabuza a smile and a peace sign. Zabuza, I'd like you to meet Uzumaki Naruto, the bringer of hope. Kakashi announced. Zabuza's eyes widened. What about? Naruto cut him off. Kisame? He thought he could challenge me in a game of chakra. He smirked. You might have felt it. He stretched and cracked his back. I think you can tell who won. He looked at Kakashi. Alright, I got it from here, senpai. You should see how the others are doing. Kakashi nodded. Right. Let's see how my cute genin are doing after your little stunt. He shook his head in exasperation. Was that really necessary? Naruto gave a smile and shrugged. I don't like holding back, senpai. Kakashi sighed and walked off towards Sasuke and Sai, muttering something about all-powerful teenagers. Alright, now, we can settle this in 2 very different ways, Zabuza. He held up one finger. The first way, we simply fight. And you die, with your accomplice. I'd rather not do that though, so I came up with option 2, my personal favorite. He held up 2 fingers. You and I play a game. The loser has to do whatever the winner wants. This way, neither side needs to lose a life. What do you think? Zabuza just stared at the blonde in front of him for a good minute, trying to decide if the boy was serious. After what he felt, after what everyone felt, he knew the kid could kill both him and Haku with ease. So why was he offering an option where they could survive? It was worth looking into. What kind of game? He asked. He wasn't a big fan of playing, but it couldn't hurt to ask, he hoped. Naruto smiled. Well, the way I see it, you're a Suiton user, right? Zabuza nodded. Then the game's simple, whoever can create the greatest Suiton jutsu wins. Oh, and Suiton is not my primary affinity, but I won't lie to you, I'm pretty good at it. The blonde gave him a questioning look. So, does that sound like something you'd like to do? The missing nin smirked under his wrappings. Sure, why not? He responded. Naruto wanted to laugh. Zabuza thought he had the win in the bag. Again, someone else would learn to never underestimate him. Okay then, Naruto started. You can go first. Bring out your most powerful Suiton Jutsu, just don't attack anyone with it. Zabuza nodded, and began to run through a lot of hand seals. When he was finished, he shouted the name of his B-ranked jutsu. Suiton, Suryudan no Jutsu. Water from below shot up and formed into a giant, powerful dragon. Naruto almost huffed. He was almost insulted again. A B-ranked ninjutsu. That's all Zabuza was going to use against someone like him? He just shook his head and sighed. Whatever. He took in a deep breath. I've never tried to add water to this, but I think I can pull it off. Sasuke, Sai, Sakura, Tazuna, and Kakashi all watched closely for what the blonde was going to do. And Sasuke was still paying so much attention to Naruto that he hadn't yet realized what he had unlocked, what Naruto had given him. Zabuza noticed the Kamakage size change from blue to gold, and felt his chakra skyrocket. Senpo, Suiton, the water underneath the bridge shot up in a giant pillar, reaching into the sky past what the eye could see. Tengaku Kurido, Sage Art, Water Release. Heaven's Creed. A blast of golden light could be seen within the pillar of water, and with the light, a warrior made completely of water that was 5 times larger than an average-sized man was created. The gold light was now seen in its head, constantly spinning. Huge, angel-like wings made of water as well adorned its back, keeping it in the sky above the blonde. The control to shape and keep the form of the warrior was beyond anything Zabuza had ever heard of. It was so detailed, so fierce-looking. It was incredible, but how useful was it? Naruto felt the question on Zabuza's mind. I'm not done yet, Zabuza. He whispered, but the man heard what he said. A second golden blast was seen from the pillar, and a second angel-looking warrior made completely out of water was created. 1 was incredible, but 2 was impossible. There was no way the blonde could split his concentration in half like that. Just 1 would require a Kage-level shinobi to create. The boy's smirk unnerved the demon. A third blast, a third water-made warrior. A fourth, a fifth, again and again golden blasts rang out on the bridge, and not just 1 at a time, but multiple at once. When Zabuza was sure that he was finished, there had to be 100 warriors. No, these were not simple creations of water. Zabuza knew what these were before the blonde spoke his next words. They're sentient, you know. He said offhandedly while looking at his creations. Every last one of them is able to think for themselves, and they each follow my will. The monster looked the demon in the eyes. You should feel grateful, Naruto began. You're the first person to witness the army of heaven and survive. Zabuza let his jutsu go, the water raining harmlessly down on everyone on the bridge. Alright, Zabuza whispered. You win. What is it you want? There was no point in arguing, no point of trying to fight his way out of his current situation. Not with an army of water-made angels staring at him like the demon he was. I want you and Haku to promise me a few things. The missing nin was confused. The first thing, I want you to leave Nami no Kuni, and forget about Gato and his job for you. Zabuza hated giving up on a job, but he didn't really have a choice right now. The second thing, I want you and Haku to go back to Mizu no Kuni. The demon was going to protest before Naruto stopped him. You probably know that the civil war is over already, and that Terumi Mei is the Lady Fifth Mizukage. I helped her end the war, Zabuza. She, and most of the resistance, understand why you tried to pull off a coup. They'll accept you back, you have my word. Naruto knew that Zabuza thought that even with Hyuga dead, Kiri would probably never welcome him back, but that wasn't the case. Naruto knew that Mei would appreciate having a member of the 7 swordsmen in her ranks again, and with the Bringer of Hope's recommendation, both he and Haku would have a place in Kirigakure. Why do you care if we go back to Mizu anyway? He asked, very confused why a Konoha nin would care what happened to a Kiri nin. The Mizukage. Naruto started. She's a friend. I want you to give me your word that you'll protect her for me. I can't be there for her like I want to, so I want you to watch over her in my place. I want you to be her right hand, someone she can trust with anything. Zabuza was still confused, but accepted nonetheless. And the last and most important thing, I want you to treat Haku the way he deserves to be treated, the way you really feel about him. Again, Naruto stopped him from interrupting. I have the ability of empathy, Zabuza. It's too late, I already see you. He's like a son to you, and if you don't start treating him like one, you're going to lose him. All he wants in the whole world is to be important to you. He just wants your dreams to come true. To be honest, you don't deserve that boy, but I'm not going to take you away from him. He looked at the boy he was talking about. That would be too cruel. You're his everything, his reason for living. He turned to look back at Zabuza. Promise me that you won't treat him like he's nothing but a tool. Promise me that you'll treat him the way you really feel about him. You owe him that much. Zabuza was staring at the ground, really listening to the kamikage. He knew he loved Haku like his own son, it was just difficult for him to admit it. He didn't think he could be a good father, but the blonde was right. Haku deserved for him to at least try. He raised his head, a look of determination on his face. Yes. That one word and that one look was all Naruto needed for him to know that Zabuza would do what he asked. In the man's mind, Naruto had given him a second chance to start over, to live a life with someone he could call family. Good. You're free to go then. Take your son and go home. Naruto said with a smile. Zabuza nodded and headed over towards Haku. As the two walked away, Naruto couldn't hear what was said, but the feeling of the absolutely happiest heart was clear as day. Hopefully, Haku could learn how to be a person, a son, and not just a tool. The blonde sighed. Here he was acting like the hero again. Kakashi walked up to him, Sasuke, Sakura, and Sai close behind. It was the Uchiha who first spoke. What the hell was that feeling before you showed up? He paused. Was that you? Naruto just smirked, but looked at Kakashi when he spoke. Yeah, sorry about that. I kind of ran into a couple of red clouds on the way over. The thing about red clouds though, sometimes, you run into ones that you know. He knew that Kakashi understood. And sometimes, you run into ones who think they're your better. The three genin plus Tazuna were utterly confused. Naruto sighed and rubbed the bridge of his nose. Never mind, let's just say, he paused for a second, trying to figure out a way to best describe what they felt without telling them the whole truth. That's when it hit him. It was hope, Sasuke. That's what I showed Inari the other night. All of you just got the more direct approach, because instead of seeing it, you felt it. Sakura, Sai, and Tazuna were still confused, but Sasuke somewhat understood. Hope was not just a four-letter word, it wasn't just an emotion. It was a promise. A promise that only people like Naruto could give, a promise that the monster would always be there to protect you. Sasuke wanted to be a monster more than ever now. Great. Naruto smirked. I was hoping he'd come to me. Now even Kakashi was confused, until he turned around and saw a rather short man who was on the chubby side. He was dressed in an all-black suit, had black glasses on, and carried a black cane. So, Gato announced himself. Looks like you're the only ones left. An army of thugs stood behind him, trying to act tough in the face of shinobi. It's just too bad they didn't look up. Before Naruto could command anything, he felt it. It was beautiful. It was the reason he didn't mind being the monster in the end. He was no hero, but the small boy leading the entire island to Gato and his men, he was a hero. There were young and old alike, all of them sick of Gato's treachery. United under one boy's courage, one boy's bravery, Nami no Kuni would fight back. The kamikage was never needed. There was already a hero in Wave, he was just slumbering. His name is Inari, and he was awake now. Stop where you are. Inari shouted towards Gato and his men. Naruto smirked. This Inari, this brave kid was going places. If he was a shinobi, Naruto could already see the good he would have done. This island is our home. The citizens wore makeshift armor out of house appliances, and their weapons were no different. They weren't skilled fighters, but they were many in number. Naruto was a little amused that no one had looked up yet. One step further. Inari. Tazuna whispered to himself. All of you. He whispered again, scanning the crowd. Everyone was there. His grandson had rallied the entire island. He couldn't help but turn his gaze onto the blonde standing in front of him. He may be a drunk, but he was no idiot. Uzumaki Naruto had brought hope to his home. He really was the bringer of hope. You'll die where you stand. He finished, his eyes lit with a fire Naruto knew all too well. There was a silence on the bridge, an almost palpable one, the kind that stunned the ears. It was interrupted by a disgusting noise. Gato laughed. You. Whatever the man was about to say was cut short. Don't laugh at them. Naruto said softly, but somehow, it was heard throughout the bridge, like even the heavens went silent. What was that? He asked cockily. Naruto chuckled. Gato had thought the bringer of hope was done away with. He had no idea that he was in the presence of a cage slayer. I said, the Uzumaki's eyes were still a molten gold, and they only had Gato in their sights. Do not laugh. A cold, terrifying shiver ran across the backs of all present. Gato gulped. He didn't know why, but he gulped at the blonde kid's words. Naruto took in a deep breath. People of Nami no Kuni. He shouted, getting the attention of everyone. When I first arrived in this country, all I sensed was fear and depression, like all hope was lost. A low growl came from his throat when he felt Gato's smug mind. This country has no shinobi force, no one to count on if it was in need. Gato smirked. That is no longer the case. Gato's smirk disappeared. For those of you who don't know, he looked Gato in the eye. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. And I am Konoha's Kamikage. Many gasps were heard across the bridge, and Gato almost pissed his pants. As second in command of Konoha, I declare Nami no Kuni an official ally of Konohagakure no Sato. Tazuna widened his eyes, just staring at the boy. And Naruto-san. We don't have anything to offer you. The bridge builder was stopped. The price for this treaty is simple enough. Open trade with our country, and a 2% discount for our people. Tazuna was going to protest that there was already going to be open trade. And that 2% wasn't really any better than whole price, but stopped when Naruto gave him a look that said I know. Why you can't do that? Gato screamed. Just because your nation is big doesn't give you the right to stick your noses in where it doesn't belong. He pointed at the blonde. You can't just do what you want. This is my country. Naruto turned to the businessman, giving him a look that thoroughly scared him. Shut up, he said, turning back to the wave citizens. I was told that the fisherman Kaiza was your hero. Inari held his head up high, respecting the memory of his best friend and stepfather. I can feel the minds of some of you here. He let his eyes roam the crowd. I am no hero. He brought his gaze to Inari. The real hero is standing at the head of your people. All eyes found Inari. A child, a civilian, a bridge builder's grandson, Naruto started. This boy, no, this man, united a hopeless people. He's no shinobi, he has but one power. He smiled. Courage. Naruto did something he only ever did for his god. Uzumaki Naruto closed his eyes and gave Inari a deep bow. You're my hero, Inari. He stood back up, staring at the boy. You and I are the same. He walked over to the boy, noticing how he was trying to hold his tears back. When he reached him, he put his hand over the boy's heart. You're a bringer of hope. Inari didn't close his eyes or scrunch up his face, but the tears began to fall. And if you don't mind sharing the title, I'd like for you to take it up with me. Inari nodded his head vigorously. Good. He looked at the people of Wave. Citizens of Nami no Kuni, I give you the hero of Wave, Inari, the bringer of hope. The shouts of joy and happiness could be heard throughout the island. Naruto bent down to whisper in Inari's ear. Like father like son, he whispered what Jiraiya always told him. The tears increased. Now. Naruto turned to Gato. You should all return home. A monster is about to have his way with Gato. He felt the defiance in the crowd. He understood. They needed to see this then. Wait. Gato was terrified. Is this about the material shipment? He was breathing hard. I'll give it back to you. He started walking backwards, trying to hide behind his hired thugs. Get me out of here. He shouted at them. Kill them. Kill them all. The thugs were scared, but more than that, they were arrogant and uneducated. It was time they learned. Before they could take a step, Naruto began. You defy heaven. You defy God's will. He brought his hand into the air. Now burn in hell. The thugs turned their eyes to the sky, and when they saw the hundreds of... Were those angels? All they felt was desperation. It was the end. All of you. He whispered, bringing his hand down, signaling his army of angels to descend upon the wicked. When the water-maid angels met the group of thugs, it ended quickly. They were slaughtered, every last one of them were slain, without hesitation, all but Gato. He stole from heaven. He ruined a country for his own desires. He would be given what he deserved. He would die like Kaiza. They say an eye for an eye will make the world go blind. Naruto gave a monstrous smile as he walked through the wake of dead bodies towards a shivering Gato. Then it was a good thing that Naruto didn't need sight to see. This was all for now. Thank you for watching, I hope you liked it and that you will be back for more. Please like, share and subscribe. See ya.